Hey everybody, the topic for today is servicing the Amel C drive. We've been hauled out for bottom paint and maintenance in Fort Lauderdale, so now seems like a great time to show you how this is done. Amel built boats with their bespoke C drive system for over 30 years. It's a fantastic innovation for the long distance cruising boat. Smooth, quiet, robust, but like all moving parts on a boat, it does require maintenance to keep it running well. In a previous video, I discussed the details of how to align the engine and C drive. A link to that is down below. In this video, I'll show you how to service the oil seals in the bottom end. Now, how often do you need to do this? Now, the official recommendation from Amel is every 800 hours of engine time. We put about 400 to 500 hours a year on our engine, so we just plan to do this whole procedure at every haul out. It's not hard, it's not expensive. It should take you less than about 4 hours if you have everything on hand. It's definitely not worth trying to stretch out this maintenance schedule. A new C drive can be had from Amel for about 30,000 euros. Not a bill you want to pay if you can avoid it with a little maintenance. So these videos were collected over our last 2 haul outs. So don't be surprised if you see the background change in the middle of things as I pick the view that shows things best. Some background information. It's absolutely not normal to ever have water intrude into this drive. You probably don't want to be taking advice from somebody whose C drive is contaminated with water because things aren't going well with that unit. There's also been some controversy about what kind of oil to use. Originally, Amel recommended SAE 10W40 motor oil. The logic here was that boats traveling the world would find it a lot easier to stock one oil for the diesel, the generator, and the C drive. Along the way, they changed their recommendation to use SAE 80-90 gear oil. This is actually not a really significant change. Motor oils and gear oils are rated by the SAE on different scales. The viscosity of 80 weight gear oil is essentially identical to SAE 10W40 motor oil. The big difference is in the additive package that's used. Marine gear oils include an emulsifier that keeps any water that intrudes in suspension. This helps protect the metal parts at the bottom that might otherwise sit in salt water. So, speaking of oil, I usually like to start this process with draining the oil. It can take a while for it to run out, and while that's happening, I can move on to the next steps. We'll be taking out a bit over 2 gallons of oil, so a large bucket is the best receiver. I make a trough of aluminum foil carefully taped in place to avoid as much as possible getting oil on the paint or on the ground. In this video, I'm not going into the details of removing the prop. Either the Max prop or the Auto prop will have plenty of instruction materials online if you need them. With the prop off, we're ready to disassemble the seal system. Using a 4mm hex wrench, I loosen the 2 socket head set screws. Don't remove them, but you're going to use them to lever out the part that Amel calls the wearing out bearing. Once the wearing out bearing is out, we will need to remove 3 seals. It's really important to do this without scratching or damaging either the shaft or the surrounding housing. Smooth, unblemished surfaces on these parts are required to keep the oil in and the water out. There is one correct way to do this. Everything else is a hack. Use the right tool here, not screwdrivers, not pliers, and for God's sake, do not use a drill and screws. A proper seal puller is less than $10 US. Please get one before you need it. Not only is it safest for your expensive equipment, but it's also the easiest way to get these seals out. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Easy peasy. It's done. Before you start to reassemble things, be sure that all the fouling growth, paint, and such has been removed from the exposed parts of the shaft. It should be smooth, shiny metal with no nicks or scratches. Any flaws will tear up the seals as they're pressed into place. I use a plastic scraper followed by 600 grit sandpaper to do this. The same is true with the seal housing. It should be smooth and clean. There are 3 seals used: 50 millimeters ID, 65 millimeters OD, and 8 millimeters thick. They're all the same. Nitrile, single lip with a stainless steel spring. If you're ordering aftermarket seals, don't miss that last part about the spring. At least the outermost seal's garter spring will be exposed to salt water, and the standard carbon steel spring will not last a month before it rusts away. If you order the wearing out bearing and the seals as a kit from Amel, you'll get the right parts. My boat came with this tool for installing the seals that was made by the previous owner. A hollow aluminum cylinder, 300 millimeters long, 40.5 millimeters ID, and 62.5 millimeters OD. It makes the installation of the seals pretty foolproof, keeping them straight and even. I use a metal hammer here because it makes a noise that distinctly changes as soon as the seal goes in as far as it needs to go. Each seal is liberally coated in silicone Molykote 111 before installation. The lip of the seal is packed full of this silicone grease. This material is completely waterproof, lubricates the parts of the seal system that are not in direct contact with the oil, and helps the seals slide into place without scratching, stretching, or tearing. Molykote 111 is compatible with the oil in the gearbox and with the seal material. Don't use a petroleum-based grease here. It will quickly wash out, and the seals will wear more quickly. There's also a risk that the thickeners in the grease might not be compatible with the gear oil. So the first seal is installed until it touches the back of the housing, and the next 2 seals are installed until they touch the one ahead of them. The first seal is installed with the open side facing the oil chamber. The second seal is installed the same way. The final seal is installed the other way with the open side of the seal facing out. This is the recommendation of the manufacturer of the gearbox, and it works. There's no reason to change it. Use a new wearing out bearing from Amel each time you service the seals. It's made from bronze and it's relatively soft. The seals will likely have scored it pretty significantly after several hundred hours of operation. If you can feel the score with your fingernail as you rub it across, it's too deep to reuse. When installing this part, it goes all the way in until it touches the last seal and then is backed out about 2 millimeters. This is important. It should not be rubbing against the seal. If you look closely, you'll see that the set screws are not as close to the rim as they were initially, so I backed it off about that much. Tighten the set screws, and then this part is done. When you reinstall the plug for the oil drain, there's no need to torque it really tight. The seal is made by the O-ring, not the threads. Now, fill the C drive with oil from the engine room, reinstall the prop, and you'll be ready to go for another 800 hours or 2 years, whichever comes first. Okay, everybody, if that was helpful, by all means, click the like button, click the subscribe button, get notified when new videos come out. I've got a bunch more in production, so hopefully they'll find those interesting as well. If you're really interested and want to encourage me to do more of these, go to my Patreon page and sign up there. There's even a couple videos that I post in there that are for subscribers only, so check that out. Fair winds, be safe, and have fun.